All right, my friends. Here we are, episode 24 with my good friend Kwebb slash Wildthing NUO. Man, this guy's great. Without giving too much away, he's a dedicated healer for us in the time group. He is a companion. If you don't know what that is, you'll find out. But he's a companion in the UO Outlands channel, and just overall great guy, man. So, Kwebb, tell us just a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I'm an avid gamer. I've been playing games for basically my whole life since I was 5-year-old. Had an NES. I still have a group of friends some of whom I met as early as like 5th grade. We hang out all the time and play games with. One of them actually joined Path with me. Can tell you more about that later on. And so we're always, hanging out, playing games together. We all live in different parts of the country now. So it's all remote for the most part, aside from some rare situations where we get together. But, that's, game-wise, at least that's my story, and we love it. And it's a great way to stay connected with people as like a social thing to do.
Yeah. That's similar. So I talk about them a lot, but there's Beltane and then there's Charlemagne. Beltane I've known since 4th grade. Charlemagne somewhere there in middle school area. We had our first jobs at Taco Bell together, and Beltane, he's the one who got me here on Outlands, and he also he plays here regularly. Wife, bunch of kids, things like that, and then Charlemagne just hates UO with a passion. But maybe one day. But we stay connected a lot through that same thing, that virtual world. Usually after Whiskey Saturdays, I jump into Charlemagne's Discord and keep the party going. It's kind of funny. I feel like a wedding crasher when I jump in there because I'm like, hey, and they're nice, like, hey. But anyways, man, what got you into gaming, actually?
I'm trying to remember. I know I had an NES when I was 5, although my parents didn't want me playing it all the time, which is what I would have done, had they left me to my own devices. I don't remember whether they bought it for me before I had played it somewhere else, or if I had played somebody else's game system and really liked it, and so they were like, "Oh, he's really into that, so we'll get him one." It's sort of, I had it basically as far back as I can remember.
Yeah.
But it was always a thing, even back then it was a thing to do with friends. And so when people came over, when I went to other people's houses, that was one of the things that we always did. And, back then it was all like split screen co-op or, 2 people running around on the same screen and a lot of those old NES, arcade style, almost types of games. So it was always a thing that we played, and at some point my parents were like, all right, you got to get out of the house, and of course we would just go to somebody else's house and
do the same
thing, playing games there, because their parents didn't care as much, or didn't have this on the same timer that mine did. So
my best friends were always the ones that had a Nintendo or a Super Nintendo, it was the same thing, like, you need to go outside and socialize, and I go knock on my neighbor Nicholas's door, and we'd be in there playing Top Gun. It's like,
whose house you went to at any particular point in time was very much determined based on who got what games for Christmas or whatever, and
Yep, that's it.
You got the computer or the game console. Yeah.
What were some of the earlier games you played?
I used to really love the Dragon Warrior series on the NES. I played Battletoads a lot. That was one of my favorites.
Did you ever beat it?
I never beat it. And that's a regret. But I managed to get to where I could pretty reliably get to, I think it was like level 9 or 10. So it was pretty far. The problem was that you couldn't save your progress, right? And so at some point, it would take you like an hour run to get to that point, and then you would die to some stupid little thing, and then I'd have to do another whole hour just to get back and try one more time. So it was just very punishing.
That game was extremely difficult. And do you ever jump on YouTube and search, we'll say, Battletoads and playthroughs, and then just watch I don't watch the whole thing per se, but I'll go to certain parts and definitely the end.
I haven't done it for that one. I have done it for, I was just stumbled upon some random like speed running videos where people have done like analyses of like, here's how you do if you land in a particular way with Mario on this frame, you'll go invulnerable, and so you can run through all the bad, like or like how to get past a door that nobody knew how to open in Nintendo 64. That's like a 3-hour long video, and I thought there's no way I'm watching this, but I ended up watching like 3/4 of it because it was actually pretty interesting. It's all about the mechanics of how the game worked and the systems and memory and everything. So that one turned out to be pretty fun. So I do occasionally stumble upon some of those too.
Sure. I've seen like Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, right? And again, it's the same kind of concept where if you get this song and you go here and you play it here and then I don't know, but then you fall through the world and it bugs the game and suddenly you're fighting Ganon as a kid and you're like...
Right.
And they're done with the game in 16 minutes.
How do people figure that out, right? I mean, it's crazy. But I guess you get enough monkeys on typewriters, you'll figure out anything. But
Sure. That's about it, though, man. It's wild how they figure those out. But So where the name Kwebb or I guess Wildthing, where'd that name come from?
So when I first started, it was a few months before the patch that introduced shared mastery chain experience. So I just made characters across all 3 accounts without really thinking too much about it. Yeah. And I didn't know anything about echoes at the time or how to plan anything really. And so it was just like, oh, I want to have this character. I'm going to put it here. I'm going to make this one, put it here. So I wanted a tamer, mostly so I could tame horses to bond them so that I didn't have to keep buying horses for all my characters every time I died.
That's cool.
And so I needed a name for my tamer. So I very originally came up with a name that had wild in the name of it because I was taming wild creatures. So there's really not too much to it beyond that. And then it turned out to be the main character that I ended up playing for other reasons later on because I had a different PVM character already on that account, which later, a few months after I started, did start benefiting from that.
That's a good tamer name. That's good.
Yeah, I mean, that's how it originally started. And that's why I'm actually playing a healer a lot of the time is that I had water aspect already leveled up from the tamer days because I mostly played a Dexter tamer. I was playing it before the Tamerlands. I had like a weird Shiv tamer thing that I think, like me and maybe 2 other people were actually playing, which didn't bother me. I like to do weird builds and stuff. So I had a bard character who had a bardy name. I had a stealth archer who didn't really have anything special about the name, but it was just sort of everywhere. I built all these characters with one intent in mind and just sort of abandoned most of them and put them all on one thing anyway. So that's why I'm Wildthing.
Yeah, that was such a good patch when they made, the chain experience all as one person, because I can remember or one account, right? I had Pickaxe, who was my blacksmith miner. And it was kind of neat because it was back when Artisan actually, you could only level it by killing monsters. It was now, of course, you can craft and level it. Honestly, I kind of liked that a little better just because it made me stick out as a tier 8, tier 9 artisan. It made me really stick out. And so the value of, crafted goods was higher and more sought after. You'd have people that knew their blacksmiths and would reach out to them for stuff, and the vendors. It was a lot more difficult. I liked it, but of course, all things change. But luckily, they were on the same account, and so due to that, I got a nice, extra. I only had like 5 links, and the first 5 links really aren't a lot of experience, but it was nice to log into Pwnstarr at the time and then be like, oh, cool, I got an extra link or 2 or whatever it was. So yeah. How long? Just Ultima Online in general, not necessarily Outlands, but how long have you been playing UO?
Yeah, so I was thinking about that, and I don't know exactly when I started. So my buddy who lived down the road named Elliot got the game somewhere when it was relatively new. I don't know if it was 97 or 98, but it wasn't far beyond that because I'm pretty sure I was still in middle school at the time. And he had it, but he could only play it for 1 month because it came with like a free month subscription.
Okay.
Which his parents were unwilling to, fork out the $10 a month or whatever it was for the, continue to play it.
Yeah.
We didn't know that at the time. So we played it for a month, and I mean, we didn't get very far, but we got really into it. And that was like one of the first games I'd ever played that had like a crafting system. And so that was super cool. I was really into the like, mining and trying to make items and, go use those items and die. And then, I better go make my own items again. I didn't really have any idea of the build that I was working towards or anything. It didn't make a lot of sense to have mining and blacksmithing and combat all in the same character, but, I didn't know any better.
Yeah.
And then I guess he lost his subscription, or he never had a subscription. Like he lost his 1 month trial, and I wanted to keep playing it. So I begged my parents to let me play it. And eventually they did, which pretty surprising, to be honest, given the way that they normally reacted to these sorts of things. But I somehow managed to convince them.
Catch them on a wild hair, man.
To let me do it. Yeah, yeah. I don't remember what that conversation was, but it worked. And once I started playing, a few other friends started playing, including the guy I was talking about earlier, who I still play with now. And so I think maybe there were 4, maybe 5 of us who had accounts at some point around that time. So this was probably like mid 1998 by that point. And we played it for about 1.5 years. And then I think we stopped for a little while, although I don't know that my subscription ever ended. I think we just kind of moved on to other things. And then we came back to it for a couple of years. And then eventually we just stopped. I guess at some point we did end the subscription. And then I never really played it again until I came to Outlands. So I hadn't been on any of the other free servers or kept up with any of the changes that, these custom things had done. And it was during COVID in 2021. I think it was maybe towards the end of May, early June, something like that. So right around the start of the summer, which aligns with when my schedule frees up a lot.
Yes.
And I just said, hey, let's try it. And, I got together with the guy that I referenced before, and we tried to recruit a couple of other guys who we had never played the original, and I think for them, they didn't have the same nostalgia, so they didn't stick it out. They were kind of like, this is, I don't know what this is. Like this looks kind of bad. I don't understand the interface or anything. And and at that point, we couldn't really help them because we didn't know what we were doing either. Nobody had any, resources or anything to help them out. But so that's when we came back, and then we've been playing on Outlands ever since. Although, I wasn't playing then to the same level that I am now in terms of number of hours or anything. We were just kind of messing around for a while. And then I think it wasn't that long after we started. It was maybe 3 or 4 months. It was like September or October, something like that. It was in the fall. It was when they introduced the expansion that introduced the continent that had Anchor's Rest and Shadowspire and that whole new landmass. I don't think it has a name like Wildlands like the other one does, but
I just
anyway, they started doing
the new lands is what I used to call it.
Right, but whatever it is. The stuff east of Outpost. They did the housing lottery, and we got lucky and got 2 houses in the lottery. And so at that point, it was like, well, we didn't really sign up for that big of a commitment here, but now we've got houses and everything. And so we managed to snag a spot, and it was one that could be expanded, and not to a giant house or anything, but it was big enough that had like 10 secures or something. So that was good enough to get us started. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I still have it. It's not in our main house anymore. I turned it into a vendor house because it's one of those ones that's got like a flat roof you can put vendors on. But so that worked out well. And I think that was one of the things that really got us interested, because it was like, oh, look, they're making changes. They're adding these new skills like chivalry, like, hey, let's try this out. And so we started fooling around with different builds and kind of making our own builds, and some of them worked and some of them didn't. But, that's one of the things I really enjoyed about the game. And so as I started picking up on patch notes and sort of understanding how all the systems fit together, that was when I got a little bit more invested in, how it all played together.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Outlands does a really good job of like, the synergy of skills, right? And I mean, I guess, numbers are always going to have synergy between certain skills or what have you, but it just, certain things just fit. It doesn't feel like it was just an accident, like I think that Luthieus and, anybody else involved in some of the creation of the actual skills and implementation of player progression systems, they get it. You know, it's not just well, let's just make this and we're gonna make it do 5,000 damage, and they're just throwing it at the wall and then hoping that something sticks. You know, it feels really well thought out. Now, obviously, during the implementation process, there's things that have to be drawn back or pushed forward. That's just the reality of it. You're testing it with X amount of people, likely a single or double digit amount of people that are doing the actual testing. And then all of a sudden it goes out to, you know, however many people are playing Outlands. And that's still a relatively low number in comparison to some of these bigger games, you know, and I think they do, and oftentimes a better job of implementation of skills. And you know, one of the big things obviously that kind of drew me to Outlands was when, you know, and I hear this a lot, is camping actually is worthwhile skill to have here. It was well thought out. It does damage. It, you know, allows you to hike around, which, you know, personally I don't really use the hiking thing, but it looked really cool, you know, an idea, and some people do use it. The increased carry weight, you know, that was really cool. I did enjoy making the campfire and everybody sitting around it to get the buff originally, but hey, you know, now it's just kind of built in and that works out. But I've always thought that was really cool that they use those skills that were completely worthless in UO outside of RPing, you know, so it's cool.
Yeah, and they've merged some together too, like, you know, bowcraft fletching was a terrible, you know, I mean, that and carpentry were basically the same thing anyway, so why not? Or detect hidden and remove trap. You know, I think they've made a lot of good changes, and they've been very thoughtful about how the skills work together in order to come up with a way to use the 700 or 720 points you get in interesting combinations that aren't crazy.
Yeah. I mean, even that's cool, you know, with the skill balls, you know, you eat a skill ball. I mean, I get it. Me and you are far into the game that, you know, you probably have 100 skill balls sitting in a chest somewhere, you know, or you know.
About 190 right now, but yeah.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. But I can remember as a new player for me personally, I mean, I had a support group, but they weren't just, hey, here's this. You know, they made me earn it, you know. They would sell me stuff at a discounted rate, but they definitely weren't just giving it to me. And I appreciate that. I do. They could have, but they didn't. And they told me why they weren't. But every time I got enough to buy another skill ball and increase my skill, it felt cool. Every time I bought another epic skill scroll, I don't know if those are even worthwhile anymore, but they're the ones that increase every skill.
I've seen them, but I've never bought one.
Yeah, well, that's how. So originally when I had started, I was making a tamer, or my first that I was investing into player progression for, and I would buy an epic skill scroll for 110,000 gold. Now a animal taming scroll was 70k, and a animal lore was 60k. So it was better for me to buy the epic skill scroll. Plus I got all the others too with it. But I can remember buying those, and it felt cool, man. You know, like now you make a character and you're just like, all right, send 20 balls over and he's good to go.
Right.
But what did you, when you guys came over here, do you feel like you kind of hit the ground running? You know, did you struggle any with the mechanics of UO itself? I mean, I guess you played UO originally, but you did have some friends that didn't, right?
Yeah, I mean, we were fine with interface and movement and things like that. I think we certainly didn't set up interfaces in a way that were great or that made a lot of sense, or, you know, didn't have good hotkeys or anything like that you would need to really succeed. But I think we at least had enough memory of the mechanics of how to interact with the game that we could kind of do what we wanted to do. We just weren't good at it. We weren't effective at it, you know. Didn't know anything about the custom progression systems, so that was all new. And I think it took us a while to even get clued into the fact that we needed to buy stuff in order to, you know, get stronger.
I can remember getting a text from Beltane saying, have you looked at aspects at all? And I was like,
Yeah,
no, what's
right.
that? So yeah, it
Yeah, so
definitely.
some of that stuff was a mystery, and to be honest, we hadn't played in so long. I mean, it had been, let's say, 20 years or so since we had
Yeah.
played, and so my memory on what the skills did exactly was a little bit fuzzy, and so the wiki was great to refer to, and it was like, oh yeah, that makes sense that that skill would do that, but I didn't have that like recent memory of like, wait,
Okay.
that doesn't seem right. The skill's supposed to work this way, and it's doing this other thing. For me, it was just like, oh yeah, okay,
Yeah.
if that's what it says it does, that's what it says it does, you know. So I didn't remember enough of the details to think that anything here was weird skill wise. So that part was relatively easy to get adjusted to too. But I ended up buying a mastery chain first before I bought anything else, and then realized that I couldn't do anything with it, and so that felt pretty bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you know, I was like, oh, this seems like something important that I should have,
Sure.
and you know, ultimately it was, of course, but. You know, maybe you should have
But
gone
you
for
know,
the
probably
codex or the aspect first.
back then, were you able to gain experience without
No,
having
and
a
that's
chain or
actually
no?
why I did it. There was a
Okay.
guy. So I distinctly recall this was early on, like in the first couple of months. I think I died to a poison or a bleed or some sort of damage over time thing. But I managed to make it to the gate first, and then I died in the middle of Prevalia.
Yeah.
And some guy ran over and resurrected me, and he was actually a Sin guy. I had a conversation with him, and I was sort of like, yeah, I don't really know what I'm supposed to do. And for some reason, he hung out and talked to me for a minute, and it was his advice to go buy a mastery chain, which wasn't wrong. I mean, he told me that his regret was that he hadn't bought one sooner because he wanted to gain more experience toward it, and I totally get where he was coming from because this was before
Yeah.
you started gaining, you know, prior to having one.
Yeah.
Although in hindsight now, I really should have gotten a codex or you know, an aspect or something first, because that would have actually helped boost me in the short term, which is what I
Yeah.
needed. But
Yeah.
you know, his
That was a
point
big
about buying one
argument.
as soon as possible was important.
That was a big argument back then. I remember that. People would argue you should have got a
Mhm.
mastery chain first. And I was kind of in the same boat as what you're saying, where, you know, that's not wrong, but I think that you would behoove yourself to get a short term boost to catapult you at that point because, you know, the materials for a mastery chain is not cheap for a new player. And that was always my argument to it. If you're rich, whatever, you're gonna buy them both anyways. But you know, doing damage without aspect or codex at the time is just like you're hitting with a piece of spaghetti, man. You ain't doing nothing. So
Yeah, I was a backstabber at the time, and I think
okay,
it took me like 4 to 6 backstabs to kill anything, which you know is a lot of hiding and waiting.
yeah, backstabbers
But
today don't know your pain, right?
yeah, well, I mean, you roll a backstabber now, it's going to be just as bad if you don't have any
Sure.
progression items. But
Yeah.
especially after the monster health went up. But
Yeah.
you know, it was just unlucky the timing that I got the mastery chain and then they did that patch, and then I realized later that it was actually one of the other accounts I was going to play on most of the time anyway, so I
Yeah.
didn't even really use that mastery chain for anything. I still have it on that character, but he doesn't really do any combat anymore. He really he's my stealth guy that runs around and buys things from vendors so I can hide so I don't get stolen from. It's pretty much his life now. He holds all the
Yeah.
money in the bank so he can buy things from vendors, and that's all.
That's
I use it for.
important. That's great.
Yeah.
That's good. Well, was Outlands the first free shard you played, or did you play any
Yep.
other free shards before?
I never played any. When I
Okay.
stopped in
Yeah.
2001. I don't know what year did Trammel come out. It was
Yeah.
not long after that. I mean, it wasn't necessarily because of that. I was really excited to try to get a house in Trammel, which I think I did. But it was right around the time that, you know, other things were happening in life. And so I ended up abandoning it right around then, and then never really thought about it again until I was trapped inside during COVID and thought, hey, you know what? Let's see what's out there. Is there still even a community that plays this game? And
Yeah.
you know, after a little searching, I found that this was the most populated shard. So I said, we'll give it a try, see what happens.
I think it's always fun. I mean, you being a mod on my streams, you see this, but I always like it when I see somebody on the YouTube side. The Twitch side, there's not as much discoverability, right? Because you search the game and then you know, whatever. But on YouTube, it's always funny because people will randomly see the stream or whatever, and then they jump in and they're like, "Oh my god, this is still a thing," and it's always funny to me to see that, and I can definitely see why they would question that. You know, if you're not constantly been playing it. See, I guess the term is rose-colored glasses or rose-shaped glasses. I don't know, whatever. Because I've literally been playing this since I started off and on. Sure, I've taken breaks and played other, but some way, shape, or form, I've been connected into the UO community through private shards, through retail, and now. Good luck if I ever get disconnected. I don't know, but it is what it is. But it's just it is pretty cool too when you see people coming back after 20 years, people that have never played it, things like that, and it's just really interesting to me how people find Ultima, the first MMORPG after all these years, and the fact that it's still going well, and it's, to me, the best game out right now. I mean, that's debatable. I get it, but
it's always going to be subjective, but I think it's pretty great.
Yeah, exactly. It really, yeah. So, being in Path, right? First off, what Path is? I mean, they're a very interesting dynamic. You either love Path or you hate Path. I think that can be said about just about any guild, but Path definitely, first off, how did you find Path? What got you in Path? Tell us a little bit about Path too.
Sure. So I can tell you about that. So I basically played as a duo with one other guy for the first 2.5, 3 years that I played on the server, which if you're a new player, don't do that. Like, join a guild. But we see this all the time in the new player channels. Like, somebody says, "Oh, I'm not ready to join a guild yet. I can't contribute anything." I was in that same sort of mindset of like, I don't want to just go somewhere and get people give me handouts. Like, I want to earn it for myself and live through the struggle. And at some point, you should realize, which I didn't, that you don't need to always struggle all the time.
Yeah.
So I think I didn't join a guild, and Path is really the first one, other than the one that we made just for the two of us, until I was at like 24, 25 links, and I'm like, yeah, maybe I can contribute now,
Wow.
So, because that was like 5.5, 6 months ago now, something like that.
Yeah.
So I had just been essentially running the two of us solo sort of guild up until then. But I knew a lot about Path, and I knew I wanted to join some sort of like good guys team, whatever that was. And there's a few of them that sort of role play to some extent in that way. Mostly because when I was a kid playing this game a long time ago, one of the things I always wanted to do was kill those stupid murderers who was always killing me. Like, I wanted to get my revenge, and I always had this plan where we were all gonna like hide in the dungeon and wait for the red guy to run by, and then I'll just like jump out and kill him. But I don't think it ever came to fruition. That sort of was my like, middle school UO fantasy of like getting revenge on the red guys. I knew that was something that I was interested in, and I knew that Path did that, and Sir did that, and a bunch of other allies, CFC and things like that. And I knew RU Kidden from the New Player channel as a companion, and so I talked to him about it at some point. I was like, "Hey, do you think this would be a good fit?" And he was like, yeah, come on in, you're welcome. And so, I was like, okay, well, let's give it a try. Worst case is it doesn't work out, and I go back to doing what I was doing before. But I think it was great. I mean, it opened up a lot of opportunities for things that you just can't do certain things when you're size 2 of a guild. I was selling all my bosses that we earn, like mostly to Sin actually, as well, because we can't do bosses with 2 people. I mean, you can, but you get raided most of the time, and so you end up losing out all the stuff anyway.
Yeah.
So, it's been a lot of fun. I've gotten to know a lot of people. It's really opened up my social circle, so to speak. And I got in on these time runs, and it did a lot of the things that I didn't realize I was missing out on that I wanted to do and couldn't. And so, now there's always somebody I can go out and farm with, or do bosses with, or whatever it is that we're looking for. And so there's something going on most of the time.
Yeah, man. Path is a great. I've really enjoyed my kind of, I don't know, lack of a better term, relationship with Path, because I make jokes about it on my stream throughout the week. I'm their best friend, and then on the weekend, Path is chasing me all around these dungeons. Ball shots chasing me and telling me, "Stop right there, criminal scum," and questioning me and all that stuff. And then, like I said, during the week, we're like you're in the same time group as me, running with Ganthrone, for the time dungeon. So I think it's a lot of fun. I think they're great. What I do know that Path is self thought of as light RP. So you guys are in the RP group. What does that dynamic look like?
Yeah, so I mean, we have a role-playing rules of engagement, and so if you're running around and somebody comes up and attacks you or steals from you or whatever, and they don't talk to you, they don't attempt to engage with you at all, you can run, you can kill them, just basically do whatever you want, react sort of however you want. You are not expected to attempt to engage with them in a role-play sort of way, because chances are they're just going to ignore you anyway.
Yeah.
But if somebody comes up to you, often, but not necessarily from one of the other roleplay guilds. So like if an orc or a vial or a brigand or whatever comes up and, starts talking at you and says, "Hey, give me all your gold or give shinies or whatever," you're not supposed to just attack them or run, or, you should try to at least engage with them first, because, the reality is that the scenario, whether it's combat or running or whatever, is going to play out the same way, whether you do it or not. And so you just try to sort of have that interaction that sort of justifies it a little bit first. And, either you give them whatever they're asking for and then maybe they go away, or maybe you tell them, never, you got to take it from me, or whatever you want, and sort of try to make it a little bit fun and spice it up a little bit. And then usually the combat happens, a minute or so later anyway. Like it's not like you're missing out on anything. So that's a big part of it. I mean, there certainly are role play activities, there's organized events, and so there's some of that. I've done a few of those things. I haven't done a lot. I mean, you did the one on stream where like the Halloween zombies were coming after you. So that's one of the ones that they organize. And so there's a group of guilds that all sort of get together and do these things. And, I know you've shown a lot of videos when you're on breaks during your streams that have highlighted some of the events that you've been to.
Yeah.
I think part of the light version of it is that you don't have to do these things all the time, aside from attempting to engage people who are engaging you. And one of the things that I think it's almost funny to say now, but that I was really worried about before I joined, that I was like, I don't know if I want to do this, because I didn't have a lot of role play experience, was like, am I going to get in voice chat with these guys and they're going to be talking in like, like thou art, fighting the orc, or whatever. Like I didn't want to like get on, in a voice chat with people and start talking like a weirdo, like a LARPer or something, like in my computer by myself, and have like my wife walk by and be like, what the hell's wrong with that guy, So I was very glad to hear that like it's pretty normal conversation when you're engaged in guild activities, and it's really just the sort of in-game chat that follows those lines.
This is funny that you say that. So when somebody new joins Sin, right? And they go, "Hey, everybody welcome XYZ to the guild." Then I will jump in there and I will tag that person and I'll say, "Hey, welcome to Outlands premier role-playing guild. Make sure and send your role-playing bio to," and then I'll tag a random officer. And then I'll say, "And also don't forget, Friday nights is in-character night. So make sure that if you jump in voice, you say your thieves and thous. And if not, make sure and put OOC by your name." And like, it's funny because some people will be like, "Ooh, I didn't know this was a thing," and some people are like, they'll send a bio, and it's great. And obviously, none of that's true. But it's just funny.
We do the bio thing actually. So if you join past Discord and want to join the guild, one of the things you do is answer like a small questionnaire, which I think most guilds do. But one of them is to write like a short sort of role play backstory for your character, and it doesn't have to be long or super in depth. It's really just like are you willing to make some level of effort, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So we do that one. Although I don't think I've ever heard anybody talk, voice channel wise like that. That's a little over the top.
Yeah.
That's very much not what I was looking for.
I honestly, I had wished that when I've done ERC events, I had wished that I would jump in there and that they would be saying the ERC language and everything while they were in voice. Obviously, it didn't happen, and instead
I don't know how you could keep that up though. That seems crazy.
Not at all. Yeah. Instead, they just put on like orc music, and we did the event, and it was really cool actually. And then they talked and stuff, and it was cool. It was really cool. But okay, so let's shift this a little bit, and let's talk about a companion. And for the listeners out there, I said that at the beginning of the stream that you're a companion in the Outlands Discord. Kind of tell them what that means.
I mean, so companion is just a role that you can be tagged with in the Outlands Discord. It gives you an orange name. It's intended for people who are going out of their way to help other players in some form or another. It's often, but not exclusively, in the new player channel. There are some companions who hang out more so in other channels, like Vin is always in the taming channel, has made a lot of great resources for that one. And there's a few people that hang out in the PVM channel to answer questions. But for the most part, I think the bulk of us at least hang out in the new player channel and answer whatever stream of questions we happen to get. And if you do that long enough and you get along with people, somebody will eventually say, hey, you've been investing a lot of time in this. Do you want this role? And I suspect most people say yes if they've been doing it for a while. But
yeah.
So it's really just sort of an informal, hey, this is somebody who will probably help you when they can answer your questions, and tends to do that a lot.
So are you considered staff or just...
Nope, not staff. Have no power over anything. Can't look anything up for you. Can't fix your accounts. Anything like that.
I'm sure you get I'm sure you get lots of DMs.
Not tons, but I do get some weird ones sometimes. A couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago, I had a guy who DM'd me about some items that he had gotten in like an event. From like an event score event from like 2021, and he wanted me to tell him how many of them there were on the server so that he would know how rare they are so he could price them. I can't do that.
If you got that power, sign me up, man.
So I told him, like, look, I can't do it. Owen probably can, but I don't think he's going to, but you could try asking him. And he wanted me to ask Owen for him, and I'm like, I'm not going to use up messages to Owen on that one.
Yeah.
But occasionally that, or, more often than not, if I get a question for something that I can't help with, it's usually because I tried to help somebody somewhere else. So if somebody posts a question in, the account support, or I guess that's not a channel anymore, but the like client support or game bug channel or something, I might try to help somebody and just give them some ideas of things that they can test, just sort of like low-hanging fruit, so that maybe they get help a little bit sooner, or they don't have to keep hearing the same things over and over again from other people, the admins, that is. And sometimes they take that to mean, oh, this person is an admin who's trying to help me right now, so let me send him all my information. And I'm like, nope, don't want that. Can't help you. Don't need your IP address. Like, send it to this guy. Or open a ticket over here.
Yeah. Don't give me that responsibility.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you're staff, you can't play the game anymore. Right.
Yeah.
Like Eric talked about this in the one that you did last time, the one where he's showing you the library and everything. Mm-hmm. And so you got to give up your account if you're going to be staff. Otherwise, it's a conflict of interest, of course. And so,
I'm glad they do that. I mean, it sucks for Eric, right? I mean, I guess he was going to quit anyway, but it sucks for, staff in general. But at the same time, I am very glad that they do that, because one, it makes sure, you really want to be staff. And then two, it does help with the whole, well, I can
There's
just
no
summon
temptation
myself a
to,
quick.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I can just summon myself another axe real quick. No one's ever gonna know, or whatever.
Right.
That's a good thing for sure. So,
Yeah,
what?
at some point I tried to sell a house actually, and somebody replied to me, "Oh, I didn't know you played the game." And I was like, "Yep, I do. Probably more than is healthy, but yeah."
Yeah, yeah. I always picture. Tell me if this is right, but do most of the companions, the active ones, right? Which I think they're all pretty active, but is it pretty much second monitor while you're either working or playing?
Yeah, I can't speak to all the companions, but that's definitely my setup.
Yeah.
This is one of the rare times I have Discord on the front monitor right now because I'm talking to you, but usually it's like right here.
Is new player up right
And
now?
well, no, you are up right now because
Okay.
you're.
Yeah.
So I'm talking to you, but it often is.
What are they
It's
going to
probably
do
the one
without
that
you,
I
man?
hang out. Yeah, who knows? Probably. I mean, there's plenty of other good people there, but yeah, who knows what kind of chaos is going on in there right now?
Yeah, it'll be another repeat of whatever night that was. Was that Saturday? I don't remember. It was like a crazy.
The Prevcoin guy, yeah.
Yes.
That was a good one.
That was a good one. That channel is funny because 90% of the time it stays on topic, right? 95% stays on topic.
Way more than General does.
Yes. Oh, General is a
those people
posting.
are crazy.
Yeah. A new player jumps in, or somebody jumps in, asks a question, companion answers, or random person answers valuable information. And then every once in a while, it just goes way into left field. And for me, it's good popcorn watching, comment watching stuff. I'm like, oh shit! It's one of those like cynical, you love to watch the world burn kind of things.
Yeah, you can't look away from the train wreck.
Yeah. I was like, I swear I was about to go live, guys, but new player's just too hot right now. But I mean, like I said, 95% of the time, it's very on task. What would you say probably are some of the more common questions in new players that new players have?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're pretty standard stuff you would expect. Some people just come in and say like, "Hey, I'm new. I don't really know what do I even do? Like, how do I do anything?" And we have a bot that has commands that we can type in. That the bot commands are pinned in the channel, so anybody can see the list. There's a long list, so once you've been doing it for a while, you kind of just know which one to use for which purpose. But one of them is a welcome message that has two sections: one if you're new, one to UO in general, and then one if you're new to Outlands that try to give people some background information. So that's a pretty common one we use just when new people show up, just to try to get them oriented a little bit. Aside from that, it's what sort of template should I play? What do I do with these unidentified items I have? How do I train this skill, that skill? Where can I buy this? How do I get to a particular location? Where do I buy a flame strike scroll? Comes up a lot.
Oh, I bet.
People are training magery according to the wiki, and then they get to the point where they suddenly need seventh circle and they're buy it at the mage anymore. How do I repair items? One we don't get super often, but still comes up quite a bit, and I always feel bad about it. It's like, hey, I just bought this house deed. Does anybody know where I can go to place it? It's like, sorry, you might want to sell that back. Where can I find a particular monster for the society jobs this week? Stuff like that is the ones that, I'm a tamer and my thing says I've got 4 control slots worth, but I can't find my pets. How do I find them? That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So those are all the sorts of things that we either have a bot command for, or we just kind of have enough, background we can just draw from and like immediately paste in something that we've got that sort of answers the question without having to worry or think too much about it.
Do you happen to have a file that has stuff that you just copy paste answers to?
I have a couple of notes that I've written in like a private Discord.
I have the same.
Can paste from. So if somebody asks for it, it's usually stuff that comes up not frequently enough to justify a bot command, but frequently enough that I don't want to keep writing it all the time.
Yeah.
And so I'll just like go grab it and paste it right in.
Yeah. That's funny.
It's often links actually to things that I know I've typed in the past, and I took the time to paste it or to write it once, and so I'll just paste a link to it and say, "Here, go look at this one." From 2 years ago, and the answer hasn't changed. So it's just sort of like, for this topic, go here. For this topic, go here. And those are links to myself and notes to myself that I can, refer them to.
I have the same. It's funny. I have a Discord. It's funny. The icon is and it is of no whatever. And there's different text things, and there's all kinds of different stuff that I just keep in there. There's nothing important information, but it's just a bunch of random notes that I refer to pretty regularly, but it's...
I mean, if you know where to find it, then that's what works.
It works. And Discord is one of those programs that is always open, Discord's kind of funny. I'm trying to think of what was the first voice chat you used? Mine was Ventrilo.
It may have been Ventrilo.
I mean,
I don't think ICQ had voice chat, did it? I mean, and that was the one that people you were using back in the day.
Yeah.
It might have been TeamSpeak. I'm not really sure.
So,
but I've actually been running my own Mumble server for a long time that I use privately. For maybe 12 years now.
Yeah, I was around for TeamSpeak, but I never used it. Ventrilo was my first, and then Mumble we used when I played on UO Forever. I think the benefit of Mumble was that you could fit a whole bunch of people in there. I
still think Mumble's the best. I mean, obviously it doesn't offer the same engagement with like all the different communities, and the level of text chat in Discord is a lot better. But personally, for audio, I'd strongly prefer Mumble. I still use it when I'm just hanging out with friends.
Yeah, we'll have to jump in Mumble sometime just so I can get some nostalgia.
Sure. Yeah, you're welcome to join my Mumble server if you want.
I will.
There's like 4 of us. That's all.
It. We'll count. I'm number 5, man. I'm the 5th turtle.
I have a bot too that I made that responds to voice commands, so you can like tell it, like a soundboard instead of having stupid story, but we were playing League of Legends a lot, and we would want to have like a soundboard, but you can't stop what you're doing in the middle of a League of Legends game to go click a button to play the sound. And so I set it up so you can hold a button down and like talk to the bot, and it uses like it sends it off to like an AI voice recognition thing, and tries to match what you said against the list of things that I have, and then it plays the corresponding soundboard file. So
that is really cool.
Yeah, it's really stupid. It's like way over engineered for only like 3 people have ever seen it, but we have fun with it. So it works out well.
That's cool. Do you still play League?
Not so much anymore. No, I stopped playing that maybe 3 or 4 years ago, or maybe 2.5, 3 years ago.
Yeah, it's been a while for me. I've been having an urge to play it again. So yeah, let's figure out a time so I can jump in your Mumble and we'll play some League. I'm going to tell you now, I suck. So probably unranked, but it's fun. So little quick story about League. It's so funny. My friends were pretty competitive, and they played from the beginning of League, right? And I will never forget. Like I said, they're in there playing, yelling, cussing, all the above. And
as you do when you play League.
Yeah. And when I would play, I didn't care, man, but I also sucked really bad. Well, anyways, I did my solo ranked 10 placement matches or whatever, and the rank that it placed me at was higher than what theirs was. And I posted it in our Facebook group. That shows you how far back this was. I posted it in our Facebook group, a screenshot of where I got ranked, and they, one of the friends actually quit playing. He was like, "I'm done. I am done." Like this is, and I won't forget. It was like silver something, but I think back then there was bronze, silver, and gold, and that was it. Now there's like diamond and master. I don't know, but anyways, I liked Mundo. Who was your favorite guy?
Well, I mostly played supports, which is consistent with me being a healer. Mm-hmm. Morgana was the one that I played the most. I played a lot of Thresh and Leona as well. Tend to be sort of lockdown, stunny types of supports, utility types. Yeah.
That's cool. Okay. So back on Outlands. Sorry. What's where can Outlands itself? You know, we're talking about new players. You being a companion. Where can Outlands itself improve the new player experience? I think that, I mean, in every game, the new player is where you're gonna have the most churn. But I think on Outlands Ultima as a game itself, it's gonna be higher than any other game.
Yeah, I mean, I think most of the people coming to the game, not all, but most, have played some UO before.
Yeah.
Some recently, but it's not at all uncommon for people to come in the channel and say, "Hey, I played this game 20 years ago. I don't remember much, or I remember a little bit about this or that or whatever, but I'm fuzzy on the details, and how do I get started doing this or that?" I think the biggest thing that's missing is just a clarity in what is happening. And I think the buff bar that Trank is working on right now is going to help with that a lot.
Yeah.
I think stats desperately needs to just be completely redesigned from scratch. And Owen has been talking about this over the last couple of weeks anyway.
What does
about
that mean?
Like
the status bar or?
No, I'm sorry. If you type like bracket stats, bracket player stats, the in-game stats menu, if you click help, I think there's a stats button. I just typed the command, but it's supposed to show you, there's a bunch of tabs at the bottom, right? Like you can look at your equipment, and there's a button that's supposed to show you details for the equipment. Mm-hmm. That button hasn't worked since Wildlands came out, right? Yeah. It's a button that used to be, if you used armlore on and like targeted a piece of equipment, it would pop that up. That doesn't work either since Wildlands.
Yeah.
And it's pretty hit or miss whether you click the melee tab and the buff that you think you have or the skills say that you're supposed to have actually shows up there or not.
Yeah.
Most of the time it does, but sometimes it doesn't, and you don't know whether it's because you did something wrong or
as a new player, I can definitely see
it's so confusing, right? And so people often come in and say like, well, how can I tell whether I should do this or that? And I tried to equip a different weapon and nothing changed, or these numbers don't make any sense, right? Or like I equipped invulnerability armor instead of the crafted copper armor, and in one place my armor rating went up and the other place it went down.
Yeah,
why?
Yeah.
And so there's all sorts of things like that I think make it really hard to compare items. And if you compare it with any more recent game, right? I mean, we all played Path of Exile 2 recently, where you hover over a thing, it shows you this is what you have now, this is what you're gonna get, and you can very easily sort of compare them side by side, and it just does a much more visually clear way of evaluating. It makes it easier to evaluate. I think that's the hard part. Is really what it comes down to: is how do I evaluate whether this potential change that I'm considering is actually better for me or worse for me? And there's just not a lot of easy way to do.
Yeah. And again, I think a lot of times it's easy for me as somebody that's been playing this for so long to just kind of overlook that. And it's very easy for me to look at something from afar and go, oh, that's better, just because I know, but for somebody that's just coming into this, has no idea, and they're relying on the user interface to do what they think it's going to do, and it doesn't, they're like, well, they say it does this here, but in the game it shows this, but then it shows it here. What?
and yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely part of it. And then the other part about the experience that those of us who have been playing for a while have is that we kind of have a sense of what these numbers and things like that mean.
Yeah.
And in particular, whether something mimight be additive or multiplicative is another huge source of confusion for people.
Yeah.
Right. So if you look at like mastery chain links, and just go to the wiki. I mean, you're a new player. You just want to get a link, and you're trying to do your due diligence and figure out like, well, what sort of link should I buy?
Yeah.
It's no fault of your own that you go in and you look and see that one that says aspect, melee aspect special chance. It's going to boost it by, I don't remember the number off the top of my head. I think it's 5% for a bronze melee aspect chance link. Does that mean that 5% of my swings are now going to be an aspect proc?
Sure.
Because that would be awesome, right? Because you get 10 links and you're proc in every other swing. Like that's crazy. So it obviously doesn't work that way. But a lot of times that's what they think, is that like 5% means just add 5% to it.
Yeah.
Right. Or, there's all sorts of other links that say that they're bonuses to damage. And, some of them multiply it and some of them just do like a small amount that adds. And so you kind of have to know which ones are actually the good ones. And there's really no way to know that. I mean, the wiki does incorporate some of that information now, but even then it's not clear to the new player what that even means and whether they want additive or multiplicative or under which circumstances one or the other might be better for them or whatever.
And if they even looked at the wiki, right? A lot of...
Right. I mean, a lot of them don't, but the ones that do, even they are still not getting what they need out of that information.
Well, there's also, people that don't even jump into Discord. They aren't in the new player channel. They aren't on
that was me for like the first year. I just tried to figure it out all by myself. It was terrible. Don't do that.
Right. And there's a lot of people that, that they are people that log into the game, they play it for a couple hours, and then they log off. They aren't looking anything up. They aren't interacting with the community. And I agree with you. I think part of why I really like this game is the community. I just enjoy, I'm hanging out, while I'm either stealing or doing dungeons or whatever, bosses. But, for a lot of people, it's just, I'm in my little circle and I'm playing this game and I don't care what other people say or think. So when... There's quite a bit, actually. It always blows my mind when I find somebody that's like, oh, I've never downloaded Discord, or I've never, looked at the wiki, or I'm just playing the game. Those are the people that will. They're not going to get 90% of this stuff at all.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine doing it without the wiki. I was all over the wiki from day one.
Sure.
But I think I joined Discord maybe 4 or 5 months after I started playing. And then it was only to buy and sell things. Like that was 100%. This was before, I guess it was Outland Market at the time. So even before Outland Malls. But the only way to find anything if you needed skill scrolls was either wander around vendor malls, which I didn't have the time to do.
Was Market the one that looked like Amazon? And you would buy it and then you'd...
there were those other ones. No, Market was the one that... It was the one that indexed the vendors, but it was the one that the guy had 3 bots that he just had running all the time, and he did all the indexing versus like you could upload it yourself. Yeah. And so it was only the spots that he deemed worthy were the ones that got indexed.
And you would buy a book for like $10K and put in a code. Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe. I honestly don't know how he was managing it. But anyway, before those days, you had to use the trade on the Outlands Discord. That was the easiest way to find like the skill scrolls that I needed early on. So I used it for that, and I never looked at anything else. Sure. Like, I didn't have any discussions with people. I wasn't like a member of the community. It was just like hey, I need to very transactional. Look
at you now, man. Look at you now. You got an orange name and everything.
At some point. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I'd really like, so like in my Discord, I have that exclamation rank, and it'll show, you gain levels based off how much you talk. I would really like to see that on the Outlands Discord and just see where people are at, You
can count messages, actually. We do that sometimes just as our own curiosity. But usually when somebody comes in and is like asking way too many questions. We will sometimes, we've got like a group chat among some of the companions, and we'll be like, that dude's back again. He's been here for a week and he's already at 2,000 messages, like you can just type in somebody's name and it'll show you like, their whole history.
I was going to ask
all you can get is message count, but like, it's a good proxy for how active somebody is.
I was going to ask that if there was maybe another Discord, a hidden channel for companions, or I guess there's a group chat, or
We proposed a hidden channel that like only people with that role could see, and they didn't go for it.
I'm surprised.
I don't really know why. I mean, we didn't really push for it that hard. We just kind of asked like, hey, is this something? And I think they were like, oh yeah, we'll think about it. And we didn't really follow up on it. But there's a group of us who are particularly in the new player channel a lot, who just sort of made like a group chat that we use to mostly complain.
Sure,
but
you
sometimes
gotta, you gotta get something off your chest every once in a while, right?
It's also really helpful for just sort of comparing notes of like, hey, this guy's in here asking this question, but I'm pretty sure I answered this question for him yesterday. Like, just a heads up, he's not listening or whatever.
Yeah.
He's this person who's not going to read the resources that you give him, that kind of thing, just to save you some frustration.
Yeah.
And kind of give us a heads up on like what we've already tried.
Sure.
Most people are great. Like, 80 to 90% of people are like, they ask a question, you answer, and they're like, oh, cool, thanks. And then they move on or they ask another question, whatever. It's just, there's a small, but usually vocal minority who
I get that.
Doesn't matter what you tell them. They won't read it. They won't do it. They just,
I get that. I mean, as you could probably guess, I get a lot of DMs.
Yep.
And a lot. And
no hellos,
more than what I ever thought. And sometimes people think I'm staff too, which is the funny thing, because I'm like, dude, I'm just some guy on YouTube. I don't know what you're talking about. But they will ask a question, and again, just like you said, most people don't do this, but sometimes there's people that will ask a question. I will give a well thought out response, and I think maybe that's the problem. I think it should be short or something. I don't know. And then it's a week later, they come back and they ask it a different way, but it's the exact same thing. And I'm like, hey, man, I linked you a video.
That they didn't read anything that you told them. Yep.
And I explained it. What's going on here, man? And, oh, sorry. Let me read that again. Or I didn't watch it, or I didn't read it. My bad. And it's like, okay. Anyways, so what?
And that's probably the thing that drives me crazy the most.
Yeah.
I mean, my day job is I teach, right? And so, one of the things that drives me craziest about students is you give them a resource and then they totally ignore it.
Sure.
It's just like,
yeah.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
I spent all that time writing that, and so
that's fitting. That's fitting.
That's the pet peeve. Is like I can't handle that.
Yeah. Are any other companions? You don't have to say their names, but I mean, are any other companions also teachers of some sorts?
Not that I know of, but I don't really know. I mean, I don't keep tabs on what everybody does.
Yeah. I always think that's kind of neat. So, I think that there comes a point of people that like to help or educate, and they become teachers, or maybe they tend to do training at their jobs and things of that nature, So it's just always interesting to me. So.
I mean, I think that's certainly part of why I ended up doing it. It both in terms of teaching and as a companion, is that I think I'm somebody who, if I enjoy something, I really want to share that enjoyment with other people. And so if I'm teaching an intro level class, it's like I get to re-experience, that material through their eyes and sort of, not everybody's going to love it, but the ones that do kind of light up in that aha sort of way, in the same way that I felt like that I did.
And
so it's
you get energy from that back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So if I like playing Outlands, like, why wouldn't I want to share that with other people and sort of give them that experience?
That's a very good point. So, I mean, you've been around, my channel for a while, and it's funny because I will start to play another game and I go, I'm going to make content over this. And then I do, and I make like 1 to 4, maybe 5 videos. And then I just kind of feel obligated at that point, and it's because I don't enjoy it quite as much as I do Outlands. And Outlands, making the content, also streaming, it's like I'm having fun. I'm just enjoying it. It doesn't matter if I'm doing time. It doesn't matter if I'm farming sandstone monsters. It doesn't matter if I'm stealing. I'm just having a good time. But then I play another game, and I'm having a good time. It's just not the same. And I don't get that same like wanting to spend 8 to 10 hours making a video over a certain game that I'm not enjoying as much, or feeling like I'm giving to the community as much as I do in Outlands. You know what I mean? It's just a completely different dynamic.
Yeah, for sure.
So, what day one for a new player? First time in here, what's your suggestion?
So I honestly think the biggest thing that you can do before you even start making suggestions is figure out what mindset they're in. What sort of player are they? And I think there's a lot of ways you could classify that. I think it's ultimately boils down to, I think, a spectrum of, are you here for the journey or are you here for the destination? Because I think and your mindset might change day to day or, over the course of a few months or whatever. I mean, not everybody's in the same place all the time, but I think, is this person coming in to ask a question because they're trying to figure out, how do I get from point A to point B as fast as I can? Or are they here because they want to experience this game or, meet other people or play the community, whatever it is. And they want to explore and they want to try things out and figure it out on their own. And so everybody's somewhere, in between those two opposite extremes. But for the person who is the destination, sort of, I'm focused on the goal, they just want to know, what is the fastest way to do this? And so that's the person that is like, okay, well, your game plan, if your goal is to get to 30 links as quickly as possible from day one, is to go mine a bunch and then do a bunch of team maps. And, we can come up with a script for you that's like, here's how to do it. And I have seen a couple people who have gotten to 30 links in like 200 days or something crazy.
Yeah, it's insane.
Which is wild to me. Like, it took me 3.5 years or something.
Yeah. Hey, I've been, I don't know. I came out when, I started playing when Cavernim was released. And I'm just at 28 links, man.
Yep. I mean, it doesn't really matter, right? But but to those people, it does matter, right? And so you got to figure out, is this one of those people that's what they're focused on? Or is this somebody who wants to get a little bit of guidance and then go off and try things and then, come back and figure out what worked and what didn't. And then they don't really care if they're doing things the right way or the best way or the fastest way or whatever. And they're here to learn it. And that's sort of the enjoyment that they get.
Yeah.
And I think the answer that you should give someone is very different depending on side of that spectrum that you're on. And there's certainly, even among the companions, there's a variance in sort of where we fall on that spectrum and what sort of answers that we might give. And I think there's certainly room for different perspectives and saying, here's one way you can do it, here's another way you can do it, here's the pros and cons of each one. You can go mine a bunch and that's going to jumpstart you a lot faster. It's also boring as hell and you're probably not going to love it. And so, some people love it, which is weird, but not most people don't. And so that's not really the best way to get most people into the game.
Yeah.
But for some people it works because that's all they want to do is get that codex like tomorrow, and that's how they do it. And so, I think that's really the first step.
I think that's important, man. And honestly, as simple of an approach as that is, I don't think I've heard that. I've always heard one side or the other. But again, just the point of it being one side or the other shows that there's two different types of people. The guys who, let me min-max my way to 30 links, and that's all I care about. And they're willing to sit there and, hit a mining script and walk across a mine and, or trees or whatever, and do that for a week. And then there's other people that are like, I don't know, man, I just want to play the game. The other group would much rather take a lot longer. Yeah. But feel like they're doing something that they're enjoying, that they're exploring the world, that, all that good stuff. And there's no right or wrong answer. No. And again, people's ideas might change. We might explore for a month and then realize, oh, you know what? I'm kind of hamstringing myself, but not getting that codex. Let me go, figure out what I need to do to get that codex as quickly as possible. Then I can go back to sort of more leisurely pace. And so, I just, you always say on stream that you go ask a question, you're going to get 6 different answers. Yeah. That's definitely true. Yeah, you are. And I think part of that is you're getting those different perspectives for, there's more to it than just that, but I think that's sort of what a lot of the, I think it's a sandbox, right? It is the sandbox. I can't think. I'm sure they're out there, and somebody tell me. But there isn't many sandbox games that you can go from A to Y to B to C to Q to R. This game you can. If you want to play a tamer with parry and a weapon skill and magery, I don't know. My math isn't that quick, but I'm sure there's a way you can make it happen, right? if you want to play a Miner Blacksmith PK with macing, you know what? You can. You're just not going to be as super tough as you would want to be. And if you want to role play while you decode research materials, I mean, there's so many different things that you can do in this game that you can't really do in a lot of other games. That, yes, there's always going to be, because this game is still based on numbers, but there's always going to be the best and most efficient way to do something. But there's also going to be 100 other ways to do it as well that may be more fun. You know, and I think that's always, that's where my thing of, you're going to get 6 different answers. If you post a template somewhere, get ready. Because you're going to get every other way you should have done it, or ask, can I do this? And it's funny because they'll be like, can I take 10 points from this and add 10 points to this? And you're like, yeah. Why not?
As long as it doesn't keep you out of a codex or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's about the only, you know. But, which is, it's just how this game is. And I think that it also goes back to the replayability, the, you know, just the sandbox of the whole game itself, which is what makes it fun. Because so many other games, it's, you have to do this. If you don't, there's even guilds in these games that'll be like, well, send me a picture of your template. Yeah, nope, fix it and come back to me.
And I think we have, I mean, there's certainly people that have that mindset of like, I don't want to do something wrong, or I don't want to mess up. So I got to figure out everything before I even start playing.
Yeah.
And then they never actually, I mean, eventually they usually try to play, but there's sort of this analysis paralysis of like, oh, should I do this? Should I do that? There's so many options that they kind of get stuck. And it's like, dude, just try something. If you don't like it, you can change it. It's really not that hard, you know? Like, they'll ask a bunch of questions about a template, and then they'll never actually play the template. And then the next day they come in asking all these questions about a different template. It's like, you didn't play the other one though. Like, you know, try something. Just go click things, you know, see what happens.
Yeah. You'll find out what suits you. And also, you know, what may be the fastest gold per hour for most people may not be the fastest gold per hour for you, because maybe you don't like dropping traps for X amount of seconds, you know, and being paralyzed. Maybe for you just want to go up and hit shit. So Poison Dexter might be great for you, or whatever, you know. I'm just pulling things out, but that's
I think that's right though, because we often get questions that are along the lines of like, what's the best build I should play? Or, you know, like, what is the best X? And usually it's like, best way to do something that's very subjective, right? It's very personal preference based. And it's like, well, there's not a right or wrong answer to that question. Like, the best build is probably the one that you're going to actually want to play, and not the one you feel obligated to play. Yeah. And, you know, but there's always people that will answer that question. Well, the best build right now is you pick these exact set of skills, you go do this thing. And if you don't do that, then you are useless, because you could have gotten 3% more damage this way or something. And so it's sort of this balancing act. And those kind of drive me a little bit crazy. It's like, well, let people kind of figure it out for their own, on their own a little bit. But, you know, I mean, you just never know, though, because some people want that level of direction, because they're just like, you know, I don't care. Just to tell me what's good. Like, I want to do the meta thing. And that's what they want. But I don't know. Yeah. It seems wrong to me to just like walk in and be spoon-fed a build and then not really think about it at all, because that's where I have the fun. But different strokes.
I like to adjust it, but I also can agree with you. Yeah, people are just like, I don't care why. Just tell me. All right. Yeah. Okay. Now this is gonna work. All right. Thanks. And then you never hear from them again.
Once you know they're on that end of the spectrum of like, I'm very destination focused, then it's like, okay, well, Now I'll answer future questions for you that sort of way, and just kind of tell you, you know, go do these things, and they'll say, okay, great, thanks.
Yeah. So new players, we've covered new players. You know, we've covered path. Something near and dear to my heart. Obviously, you've heard it on the last Pwncast episode, and you've been able to experience it with me from very early on, if not day one of the Time group. Is Time Dungeon. It is unlike any experience in Ultima Online that I ever thought I would have. You know, just the sheer happen to have a group I mean, you don't have to, but it definitely you need it really. The quests, take this piece here, get it with these pieces, and go there and say these words, and just all the stuff, man. The random exo thrugs, all of that has created this dungeon crawl experience that, I mean, I could have only dreamed of up to this point. I literally get giddy for our Wednesday nights, Saturday mornings, Sunday evenings. Those are good times for me. But you've been a really big part of it. I think you are. If you play certain games and they let you pick an MVP at the end of each scenario, I'm 90% certain that nine times out of 10, everybody would click Wildthing.
It depends. It depends on who's taking how much damage, but I mean, it also is just the benefit of having a unique role. I think, right? Like it's not everybody wants to play the healer or loves to play the healer. Like I said, I played support when I was a League of Legends player. I don't mind playing utility. I mean, we all have different roles. I think that's been one fun thing about it, is that as we've played more together, we've been able to specialize a lot more, right? So, I'm a healer. You've been running Fortune lately, at least for part of the to boost experience in the group. Amish is our designated looter. How often do you have a designated looter, right? Like to loot things for you.
Yeah, Shadowhorn's the tank.
Shadowhorn's the tank. Yeah, and Ganthorn's the bard. So I think like the fact that you need, or at least want to have, these very specialized roles, I think is part of the brilliance of the design of the dungeon, and that it allows for that. I mean, it's, go anywhere else in the game, and as much as I love all the other locations, it's not usually that threatening outside of maybe level 4s and a few other, Wildlands places maybe, but it's not like you have to have a party that's working together, and that if you don't have this critical piece, you're going to be screwed or something.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very easily just, what template should I play? I don't know, just pick something and I'll see you there. And
right. You can make it work. You can cobble something together. I mean, even bosses or omnis or anything that are supposed to be like, this big end game thing. Like you can get a group of any random 20 people and probably kill the omni boss, right? Like it's not, the demons or the rift demons are usually more threatening than the boss itself, especially now with all the changes. So
So what's one thing? I mean, I guess you said a few things, role specifics, but one thing that you love about time, and one thing that I don't want to say hate, but I'm just going to say hate for lack of a better term. One thing you'd change maybe.
I mean, I love most things about it. I think I think just the overall depth of it, and the fact that we've been playing there for a while, and we haven't seen everything yet, and just how much crazy stuff there is to do there, and how it's like a long time commitment to even go in there, right? Like it's not like I'm going to run in for 15 minutes and go farm on a loop and come back. Like it's it's there's so much to explore, so much that we haven't even done yet, and we've spent a lot of time in there already.
Yeah.
Just that sense of like it sort of takes you back to that exploration. I don't know anything about the game sort of phase, and I think to sort of connect this with what we were talking about earlier, I think Time Dungeon does a great job of getting the goal-oriented people and the exploration-oriented people together on the same page, because there are these very discrete, concrete milestones and goals that you can go for. I want to be Avatar of Time. I want to make it to level 7, level 8, whatever.
Yeah.
But every little step along the way is this experience that things are different every time. There's always these random encounters and events. And so I think it appeals to that side as well. And so I think no matter where you are on that, it's got something for you. And it gives you both at once. And so I think for me, that's probably the big thing that is really the win there. As far as what I don't like about it, I think easily my biggest gripe is the fact there's no way to store runes and relics or to allow you to log out and go anywhere else. Yeah. It sort of feels like you have to sacrifice your whole account in order to do that. I mean, I guess technically you don't have to have runes in order to go on a run, but kind of realistically you do.
Yeah.
And you can buy some of them, but the fact that you can't buy negate makes those precious. And it means somebody has to have gotten at least a few negates if you're really going to go very far. And so, I would be there way more often if I could either log out holding runes and still go off and do other dungeons.
Yeah.
Or even better, personally, what I would prefer is some way that you could store, whether it's you have to have a special item in your bank that's kind of like what is the name of the storage locker, like that sort of thing. Maybe you can only store a certain number of runes.
Yeah.
I don't need to store 100 runes and relics, but if I could store like 20, 30 of them, that would help a lot towards making me feel like I was making progress without having to coordinate with other people as to who draws the short straw to log out in the dungeon and feel like, they're taking one for the team so that we can make progress.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I've kind of thought maybe a infinity coin purchase for a storage locker in the bank, right? Or maybe an extra satchel where the runes won't fall out when you die, and you can take them out of time. I don't know. Or hey, man, lock it behind another quest. And right now, our group, me and you, we're trying to finish up the last few way stars. So maybe the next objective is
wards, not way stars.
Wards, yeah, wards. Maybe the next objective is, hey, we need to get our rune lockers, and so we're doing
that would be great. And I would love it.
Yeah.
I mean, it shouldn't be easy, right? It shouldn't just be like, oh, you just go in and get all the stuff you need. Yeah. I agree.
It's a weird thing because the runes and relics are very powerful, right? There we are. There's no beating around the bush. There's a clear difference in a run that we have every rune and relic that we need versus, hey, we're going in there blind. We'll buy some runes at Colony, and then we'll just kind of push from there. There's a huge difference. So at the same time, though, the way that's became overcome is literally what you said. Yeah, I'll just log out in time, and I won't play until Wednesday when we do our next run. Okay, so if that wall has already been overcame by somebody just not playing, well, let's implement a process, a system that lets us do that, because that's obviously a flaw in the system. And I think just like what you said, a quest or some kind of something that we can do to get that would be very helpful.
Yeah, I don't really care what the mechanism is. I just want there to be some way to free that up. And Eric has talked about it. I think he proposed like a time capsule sort of thing. I don't know the details exactly of how it would work. And I think he is just waiting on Luthien to either implement it or to, sort of iterate on the design of exactly what it would mean and how it would work and what the rules would be. Yeah. So I don't think it's like they don't want to do it, or at least Eric, I think, is on board with doing it. I think it's just a question of where does that fall on the list of priorities for other things that they're working on. And so
I'm curious,
I think we'll probably see something at some point, I hope, but I don't know what it'll be.
I am curious because it's kind of like boating or team mapping, right? Like it's easy, but on another scale, but it's easy to actually get started in time, but there is that leap of faith that you just kind of like jump off of, and you're like, okay, I'm getting started, but or getting some friends together, and you have to do the research. You have to figure it out. You have to talk to NPCs and read books, and there's an extra level of gameplay that isn't in the normal game. Whereas if I go to Shadowspire or I go to Crawl or any dungeon, all I'm doing is just blasting. I'm blasting, and that's it. I might, okay, this monster does this mechanic. Okay, I need to move over. But there's no like level barrier to entry. Whereas in time, there is some barrier to entry there. And so I think it scares some people off of time. But I also know that people are like, oh, I'd like to do time. But it stops there. I'd like to do time, but it stops. I'm not saying that in a sense that I think it should change. I think barriers, as far as you have to take an extra step, are good things. But I'm just pointing that out. I guess you could say, there's definitely that.
Yeah, I think it would be hard to change that in a way that doesn't hurt the experience for the people who want that, or I don't think people want barriers necessarily, but the people who are sort of happy with the level of rigor that we have right now.
That's it. Yeah, that's a better word than barrier. Yeah.
But I think Path has been doing these runs on Wednesdays that you refer to, and sort of anybody from community who we know really can get in on these, and you don't have to have any prior time experience. And that was how I started doing it too. Was actually the first run I ever went on was one that I think you were streaming, where we actually killed that ancient worm. Oh yeah. I had no idea what was going on. I was just running around like a chicken with my head cut off, like just trying to survive.
Yeah, and I was streaming, so same boat.
Right. Yeah. So that was a brutal introduction. Let's say.
Yeah.
I died so many times. Not really understanding what was happening. And now one of Path's allies, Bear, has also started up some time runs that they're doing, and I've been joining them on some of them. And it's been a lot of fun experiencing that through the we're going with a group of people who don't know anything about where we're going, because I didn't really start, like I said, I only joined Path about 5 or 6 months ago. And so they had been running time since it came out, basically. Prior to me getting there, and I didn't really have much experience other than level 1, just kind of exploring on my own. And so it's nice to explore level 1 and 2 and 3 to some extent, a little bit more, versus just running directly to 4 and 5. Yeah, and jumping down there.
Eric said there's even in that last podcast, he said there's even stuff on level 1 that hasn't been found out, and he's like, and one of them I don't think anybody will ever find out. And so it was kind of neat, because I think it was a Sunday night that Ganthrone wasn't there, and it was right after the monster rebalance, and we just kind of roamed around level 1, and there was the phase monsters. We went into the jail over there on the, southwest corner. And so I was really interested in that, because it was parts we hadn't been to. And I was like, oh, are we going to find the spot that nobody's been to, or whatever. I think that is really cool. It just the fact that there's stuff that's been unfound. That's really cool, Yeah,
and I can't wait till we get to that spot with the ancient worm and all the all-seers. And I don't know what we're going to do there. I don't know how we're going to survive any of that, but yeah. It exists. You can find screenshots of it. In the Time Dungeon channel, and it looks like hell.
Yeah. What's your personal goal in time, like for you?
I just want to keep exploring. I just want to keep going further down. I don't. I'm not particularly tied to I have to become Avatar of Time or anything like that. I really just want to. I haven't been to level 7 yet. I think we're really close. We most of us have the wards that we need to get down there now, but not quite everybody. And then I know there's the next refractory lens. This is the next one we got to work on after that to go to the boss in level 7. But I want to go there. I want to see what's on level 8. I just want to run around and see all the cool stuff that Eric made, and conquer whatever areas that they have, for whatever that means. And I don't even really have a good definition, but just kind of feel like I've been to those places and done what there is to do there, and done it with a group that's fun to hang out with.
Yeah, I think me and you are in the exact same boat. I just enjoy, the interaction we have. I think we have a really good group, a good dynamic. Everybody gets along, and I like that. I've always been big, hey, I'm a big fan of my guild, right? I've been in Sin for a long time. I've known Mary for double-digit years, on a server I played with before, and things of that. But I also am a very big person of, it doesn't matter what guild you're in. In reality, we're all playing the same game, and you can come together and do something together. Squeezed likes to raid Omnis every Sunday. No Legs is real big on talking about that. I just fucked you guys up in this Omni, and it's like, yeah, man, good job. Are you ready to do some time? And here we are, doing that. So I like that aspect of it. We're able to get in there and have a great time together, talk crap to each other, have a goal, and get out and crush it. And it also is where something crazy good drops and I'm not worried. Like Amish was putting his menagerie down in his house and he didn't have it locked down, and there's 10 people around it from different guilds, and no one was concerned that they were going to yoink it and eject and recall out, and I think for me, especially lately, just having a group of people to play a game with, enjoy it, has been a difficult part of the game, has been super, great. It's been amazing. So.
Yeah, I think that aspect of meeting people from other guilds. I mean, I didn't join a guild till not that long ago, so for me, any new people was new to me. But I did uprun with High Tide because there's a few people in our group that are from High Tide.
Yeah.
And they were trying to get people into time, and I think they had some crazy number of people. It's like 25 or 26 of us, which was huge. I mean, we were just running through, plowing through everything. But it was madness. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And, those are people who I had seen running around in the game for years.
Yeah.
But I had never talked to any of them. And so getting that chance to be like, hey guys, what's up? I'm going
to heal all 25 of you.
And heal you and do my best to heal 25 people. Good luck. So I think that was a unique opportunity that I haven't had in any other context in the game, just because most things don't really warrant getting groups like that together.
Yeah, that's good. This is a good one. So these next few questions I ask everybody, right? Mm-hmm. What if you could make a suggestion to Outlands, and they had to do it, what would it be?
Yeah, I mean, knowing you were going to ask this, I thought of a few things. I think the biggest one is what we talked about already with fixing stats and just that just makes my life a lot easier in terms of not having to answer the same stupid questions over and over again.
Yeah.
And I know Owen feels the same way, given some of the recent posts he's made. As far as other smaller things, can you just let me craft 25 scrolls at a time, please? I bring 900 greater heal scrolls with us every time we go to time.
So it's pretty regular. You just go to bed with your crafting queue going, maybe show up to an antiquity.
I just make scrolls overnight. Yeah. You don't get much credit for scrolls, so you don't usually get antiquities for those. I mean, you sometimes, but
yeah.
I probably got 20,000 greater heals in my shelf right now, and then every so often I have to go restock those and buy a ton of blank scrolls from the vendor, and it takes hours, hours. So that sucks. We talked about the time capsule things. Give me some way of storing runes. I would really like it if explosion potions didn't flag people on the summon creatures in time. I think that's one that we really need to fix. It's been in the patch notes as it's fixed, but it isn't. So I think that would be a nice one. So that was my list. It was mostly personal gripes, which I don't think is necessarily the spirit of your question, but those are things that would either make life as a companion or a person who likes to play a healer in time a lot easier. So I'll go with those.
Because it sucks. They go gray, and then you're like,
then I can't heal. I mean, if I do heal them, I lose my aspect bonuses, and so that sucks. And
that's big. That's big. What?
That's also the only way I can deal. I have alchemy on my build.
Yeah.
And so that's really the only way I can deal damage, just to throw potions. I mean, I can cast Grimoire Lightning every so often to hinder something, but I mean, I'm never going to be dealing a lot of damage as a healer. My build's not set up for that. But the one real damage source I have is explosion potions. But I just have to be really, really careful not to throw them at the wrong time. Yeah. Or then the monsters come kill me. The summons.
We should probably. I mean, I'm 2 videos behind, man. But in the spirit of, hopefully it doesn't become obsolete by the time I finally get around to doing it. But we should talk about your template, your healing template. And maybe I should make a video of, Wildthing's healing template for time or whatever. Group play healing template. I always like doing those ones more than other videos of, all right, here's the meta poison dexer, here's the meta, cool, but these ones are a lot more fun. So, maybe we should scratch out a time between Mumble and League of Legends and time, and now
there you go.
So What other games are you excited about? Like outside of Outlands, maybe they're out currently, coming out, whatever.
Yeah, so I mean, Civ 7 just came out. I played thousands of hours of Civ 5. I didn't play quite as much Civ 6. I just didn't like the visual style quite as much. But I did play it quite a bit still, and I played Stellaris and other sort of 4X types of games a lot. So I'm looking forward to that one. To me, a Civ game isn't really out until it's been out for maybe 6 months to a year, because they add a lot of stuff. They do a lot of balance changes and patch a lot of things in. I mean, Civ 6, even Civ 5 too, was really rough when it first released. So I'm kind of in that, like, I'll wait for a few iterations sort of camp.
Yeah.
And then when I do start playing it, I'll play it a lot and I'll go, all in on it.
Yeah.
But I feel like I'm waiting for a little more polish on that. I play a lot of other like management style sort of games. So games like RimWorld, Factorio. I've played way too many hours of Factorio. My friends and I finished a space exploration run, which is one of the mods. It's on average takes about 500 hours from start to finish to play through. And I played it with 2 other people, and it still took us that long. And they just released an expansion. We're still burnt out from having done that run, but at some point we're gonna play the expansion once we feel like it's fun again and not work.
Yeah.
Outer Wilds is probably one of my favorite games of all time. It's a very different, not Outer Worlds, different game there, but Outer Wilds, the like spaceship exploration. It's one of those games where all the progress is based on what you know and the things that you learn. So to definitely come into it knowing nothing about it, or else you'll spoil it for yourself. Like I can just jump in and go win the game in 20 minutes or less. Yeah. But if you've never played it, it takes you a long time to get to that point and sort of put all the pieces together, and it does a really good job of spreading things out. So that's a very different style of game. It's not usually the one that I play, but I got into that one, and I've been starting to play some other sort of mystery solving games with another friend of mine, and games like Curse of the Golden Idol or Rise of the Golden Idol, the two that just came out. And so things like that have been.
Did you ever play Myst?
I did. I had it when I was a kid. I never really figured it out. But
I used to watch my mom play that a lot. She was really
I've since watched some like playthroughs of it online.
There you go.
But
it's like we were talking about earlier.
I never played it. Yeah. Well, there's a group of guys that called Mostly Walking that they're about our age, and they all went to USC's like game design school together. Okay. So they go through and play typically old, but not always, but older, let's say, adventure games, and sort of critique them from a game design standpoint and from a just like, how fun is it? And there's sort of a Mystery Science Theater 3000. We're going to just talk shit about everything sort of aspect to it as well. Like when something stupid happens, they'll be the first ones to, so I watched them, and they played through a bunch of games like that.
That's great.
So I'll play anything. I'm not super big on first-person shooters, but,
Yeah, I think for me, first-person shooters, they're fun. I enjoy them, but I got an hour on a max, man. I can't. It's funny. I know people that will play as much Call of Duty as we play Outlands, or any other game, Civilization. Same thing. I get a luck out because I'm playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth right now, and as soon as I finish that, I'll play some Civilization, which is still probably a little too early, but whatever. I'll still play it. So, but who should be the next guest on the Pwncast?
Well, I'm kind of cheating here, but maybe barely there in Vegas.
Besides him, because yes, he is the next one.
Yeah, I'm going to go for Are You Kidding?
Cool.
If you can get him to do it. I think, he's been, it's one of the leaders of Path. He may have been the first companion, if not, he was one of them. He's written all kinds of extensive guides and everything. I think he would be an awesome person to have on here.
Yeah, he'd be great. I
don't know if you can convince him to do it, but if you can.
Who knows? It'd be nice. He's jumped on here and taken shots with me before on stream, so why not?
Yeah.
Anyways. Well, Wild Thing, aka Kwebb. I think me and you have a time run to go do. So,
I think they're
and
waiting on us. Yeah.
yeah, so I really appreciate you being on here, episode 24 with me, and I appreciate you, man. It was a good one.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Good.
And, looking forward to hanging out and doing more time runs, and maybe killing you on the weekends too.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Have you killed me? Do you have a thief hunter that you've murdered me a few times with?
I don't think I've actually killed you successful, but I have chased you a few times around. Yeah.
Cool. That's always fun. That's what I'm about, man, is the chase.
Yep.
All right. Well, guys, Pwnstarr Gaming,